So I thought I'd do something different today. It's not too often I go and do something that isn't all super discussion based, but I really wanted to start doing some tier list type of stuff. So I might do a few videos of just doing some tier list kind of things. But I really want to start with some Persona because this Persona announcement stuff has got me pretty hyped for some more Persona stuff. So I thought, let's do a Persona 3 through 5 party tier list maker. This won't be any spoilers or anything like that. You don't gotta know nothing about Persona. This is just what I'm gonna be saying based off my thoughts on each of these characters in terms of gameplay and stuff like that. What I like using, how do I rate these guys in terms of, actual combat? So I'll really have this set out for S, A, B, C, and D. I might make another tier if it calls for it, but maybe not. If you guys have anything like that, I'll leave a link to this specific tier list if you guys want to in the description. That way you guys can make your own and even put it in the Discord server. So if you guys want to show me your own tier list for this, you can definitely always just send it over to the Discord server or tweet it at me at KingdomAce_. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's be real here. I'm going to do this first and foremost. I'm going to put Joker in S. I'm going to put Narukami in S and Makoto in S. And this is obvious. The main protagonists, they're able to use any persona in the game basically. If it's not, obviously your teammates' personas, they can basically use any persona in the game because they're wildcard users. And that basically just makes them OP. So they can be healers if you want. They can be able to use multiple different kinds of elements and things like that. While each other protagonist or the other party members and stuff, they all have to one specific element. Like this person specializes in electric, this person specializes in wind, etc. These guys, that rule doesn't really apply to them. They can kind of just do whatever they want. And they're the protagonists, so I think it's fitting for them. They're all in S tier. I'm just gonna get that out of the way because that's not the meat of this video. So I guess let's just go up for Persona 3 and then go all the way up to 5. So I'm going to go with the next best for Persona 3 because Makoto's already up there, at least in my opinion. I'd probably say I want to put Aigis in S or A. Now I'm going to put her in A, primarily because, she's not an S tier because, at least in terms of the main game, Persona 3, she can't really use, whatever persona she really wants to. She still has her element. She can, but she's still really freaking good. She's really, really powerful. She's got good buffing, healing. She can revive people. She's just really good at a lot of different roles in the game. So it's like when you have Aigis, available to use, there's no situation to where you won't benefit from having Aigis with you. So it's like, Aigis is just great. So I mean that's just me personally, and it's funny because I feel like I don't care for the character as much, but I'm also going to put Yukari in A as well, mainly because Yukari, she's really good at healing too, and I'd probably say in terms of healing specifically, she's even better than Aigis is, just because she has like the best healing and revival spells in the entire game. So it's like in those really clutch moments where if you didn't have Yukari in this party, you would probably lose. It's situations like that. So I usually kept Yukari in there, even if, I wasn't the biggest fan of her character. I like Yukari, but, I felt like her character was flawed, but I feel like flawed characters are great. But, I still give her an A. She's obviously an A tier character. Anybody who's played Persona 3, I feel most would agree. S or A, I feel like I feel like most people would agree with that personally. Next is kind of obvious. I'm going to put Mitsuru at, this is gonna ruffle some feathers. I'm gonna put Mitsuru at B. Main reason is because Mitsuru isn't somebody who heals people. She's really strong. She has super good ice magic and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of enemies that, kind of wreck you if you have a weakness to fire in that game. So I felt like it was pretty frequently, I felt like, she was getting critically hit, and I really didn't like that. But she still, when she's out there on the field getting work done, she hits like a tank. So I feel like because she doesn't have that added benefit, she can like, I know that's kind of biased. She could easily be A and Yukari could be B, you know, especially since Yukari isn't really that strong. She doesn't really hit that hard with her wind affinity. But the fact that she can heal and revive people and has the best of that in the entire game, I gotta give her the A. You know, I'll always take, because I always feel like if you're lacking in physical power, I, as the main character, can always make up for that. So that's me personally. I can always make up for that, but I can't really make up for it if you don't really have anything else but strength, because at the end of the day, you know, I could start healing, but when you take, you know, attacking, when you take that offensive edge off the main character so he can start healing people, I feel like that puts the whole team at a disadvantage personally. So I'll always put a healer above, you know, an amazing healer and reviver over, you know, a really strong person. That's just me personally though, but you could easily have them switched. So and I can completely understand that as well. Personally here, I think this is a bit different for me, though I'm not too sure, because these next two that I'm really like eyeing right now, they could kind of be switched out too, just like how I was saying before. I'm thinking about going ahead and putting Junpei over here at A tier, mainly just because Junpei is really strong, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of because of his character too. He's, you know, he's the persona bro. I love my persona bros, man, and he goes through a lot, and you know, they kind of just start him off as a character that just like, oh, you know, life's a game, you know, kind of thing, you know, girls, man, you know, but he really develops as a very, very great character, you know, someone you can rely on, you know, even though he's kind of rocky at first, but you know, who wouldn't be, you know, when your life kind of changes into something like this. You know, I personally just think it's that, you know, I think it's pretty good. He has a super good, you know, amount of physical attacks and stuff like that, and I know this kind of goes against, you know, what I just said about Mitsuru, so that's literally an unfair ranking right there, but again, I kind of can't help but let my love for the character kind of influence that. Again, you could easily switch these two out, you know, and it would be the exact same thing, you know, but I think it's just because you could even have them both in A, you know, and I think that's a legitimate ranking too, but personally, I found myself taking Mitsuru out more frequently than Junpei personally. That's not because she's worse, that's just because, you know, sometimes when I'm on an adventure, having my boy with me, you know, it's just something I liked personally. But the next one up, I'd probably say is Akihiko. Akihiko is pretty strong, and I feel like maybe it's because, you know, in retrospect, I really love Narukami, which is, you know, original element was Zio, which is electricity as well. It makes me kind of really like him too, because I really love Zio users in Persona. But see, Akihiko is really strong, but I feel like as a boxer, they didn't really use that for his soul, like his persona. Like his persona wasn't really a punchy kind of person, you know, in that game. He was really strong with electricity, but I feel like it wasn't what I wanted it to be. Akihiko was definitely somebody that I took out, because even though his electricity was really strong, I feel like Makoto could kind of cover him. So it's strange, but I definitely feel like that would end up being the case. But I think at the end of the day, he's a really good character as well. I'm not too sure if I like him more than Mitsuru though, not even necessarily just in terms of character, but also in terms of in general with, you know, as a party member. But I think the same thing can kind of be said about Ken. As much as I like Ken as a character, he's a very interesting character in the story. Especially, you know, with all the developments and what's happened before. I think he's kind of a worse Akihiko though, you know. I feel like he's a worse Akihiko, and I honestly feel like he's going to be the first C tier character, despite loving his actual character. I think he was, you know, I think he was not as great. I'm going to go ahead and put Shinjiro. I'm gonna put him in B as well, because I feel like his real thing, he wasn't really weak to anything from what I remember. Like, it's been a while since I played Persona 3, but he wasn't really weak to anything if I remembered. But he didn't really have anything special about him. I might put him in C as well because he was only really good at physical attacks. So, and you know, and in a way, I kind of rethinking my Junpei placement. I think I'm going to put Junpei in B tier as well, because again, these characters I feel like don't really specialize in anything or are just outdone by other characters. Junpei is kind of like that too, but I don't think as a from a gameplay perspective, he excels enough to be in A tier personally. So I'm redoing that. Fuka, I'm gonna put in A tier, primarily because Fuka, you don't actually play as her. She's like the navigator character in that game, and I feel like she does a very good job of playing that role. And some people might think, oh, that's not really that crazy, but I felt like I can't play Persona 3 if Persona 3 doesn't feel right without Fuka, you know, giving me, you know, my navigation kind of stuff. You know, at least that's me personally. I feel like she does a good job at that role. Again, she doesn't actually fight, but she does a great job at what she's trying to do. So I'll definitely give her that. We only have one more, I think, of Persona 3. Yeah, we only have one more. This one might be controversial. I think I'm going to say that Oromaru is a B tier, primarily because, you know, he's good with the whole fire and dark stuff, and while I do like him for the dark element as well, I felt like when I could have used Koromaru, I just used Makoto. Again, it's one of those situations to where, you know, it's good, but is he really necessary? You know, especially when, you know, Makoto's base element was fire, so it's like I definitely didn't need him for that. I debated on it with darkness, but again, you know, I just didn't need that, especially with being weak to light. I don't think being weak to light was really too big of an issue throughout, you know, most of the game, but still, I can always just change my weakness when I'm using Makoto. So I felt like he's a good character. He's just outdone by the main character, which seems to be something frequent here. So that's it for the Persona 3 main characters. So that party is completely done now. So let's go ahead and move on to Persona 4. Now, unlike Persona 3, I actually have played through Persona 4 multiple times. I played through Portable once, and I played through FES once. So I know these characters a bit more. And that's going to be, same thing can be said about Persona 5. But Persona 4, this one might be a little controversial, but I am going to put, after the main character, which is Narukami, up in the top, I'm going to say that Yukiko is an A tier character. Okay. I feel like S is just impossible for anybody else to really get into. I was debating on S because, you know, once I got Yukiko, she didn't leave the party. She did not leave the party. Her healing, her fire was just incredible. It was incredible. Literally, she excels at every single thing she tried to do. You know, obviously she has her weakness, but again, if we had enough people in the party, you know, and I was smart about how I played, her weakness to ice didn't really matter. So, you know, it doesn't really matter, and especially since you can get, you know, items and stuff that help with that too. It didn't really matter. I didn't find myself, you know, in danger because of Yukiko ever. So Yukiko is the next A tier character for me. Going up next though, I'd probably say this one's kind of tough because unlike say Persona 3, I feel like a lot of people are really close in this one personally. So the next one I'm going to say is Kanji. Now, Kanji is one of my favorite characters in the series. I love Kanji so much. Everything about him, every moment he's in the story is legitimately one of, you know, the better ones in the entire game. But as gameplay wise, while he's super strong physically and he excels at electricity, I felt like Narukami kind of outdid him on both. At least he wasn't good enough to where I felt like I had to take Narukami off of electric duty or physical duty and make Kanji, make up for it. So I'm actually going to put Kanji in, I'm going to put him in B tier. So it's similar situation as Mitsuru in Akihiko, just because, even though he's a great party member, I feel like, he excels at things that Narukami is just overall better at. I'm going to give Rise an A tier, mainly because, again, with the navigator type roles, they are very, very good, especially if you do their social links, the random buffs and heals and things like that, regenerative things she can do is so good. And the fact that, it's almost as if your hearts are kind of synced together. You can kind of feel that little, moment to where, come on, Rise, I really need you right now. And then she comes through, with a heat riser for the whole team. It's just like, Rise, let's go, So it's just like, at least I found that happening way more. And I will say, in these rows, I'm not saying any of these people are better than each other. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that Rise is worse than Fuka here. I'm just saying that in general, these are all A tier characters. I'm not saying Joker is better than any of these characters. These could be in any order you want, and it wouldn't matter. But this is just it. I should have explained that at the beginning, but you guys know what I mean. Next up, I'd probably say is Yosuke. Yosuke, his reason for being B tier is a little bit different. He is somebody I did frequently keep in the party, but I don't necessarily think, okay, yeah, obviously Narukami is going to be better than him at his certain element, but I also felt like in general, he was just a great party member to have. But I feel like I did end up replacing him later on. And I don't really want to explain fully because I guess it's kind of a reason why I put somebody else in, but I don't necessarily think he's B tier because someone else is better at basically everything he does. I just think overall he's a solid pick to do. But, unless it's say something specific, like say if I'm going throughout the general dungeon, I can have Yosuke in the party. But then if I get to the boss or something like that, or an encounter I think it's possible I might lose, like say if I'm getting, further into the dungeon or something like that, and things are getting a bit trickier, I might switch Yosuke out. That's primarily why he's in B tier. But I would say, if these were ranked, there, I'd probably put Yosuke over here. So, but I think another situation is going to be that same thing with Chie. Chie is also basically the exact same situation with Yosuke. She's somebody who's very good, especially early game. She's somebody that's just like, okay, like she hits really hard too. I might even say she's better than Yosuke, maybe. But I just think her ice element really helps out too. It's a general good magic to use, even if somebody isn't weak to it. Not a lot of people, are resistant to it. Especially for a lot of the game. So I felt like her magic was always a solid pick. Her physical attacks were always a solid hit. But I don't think I'd call Chie a tier, party member personally. So I'm next up, I'm actually going to use this one's going to be pretty hard. This one's pretty hard. We have Teddy and we have Naoto. Naoto is really good. And I think I'm going to put Naoto in A tier. Primarily because, well, Naoto is my, those of you guys that know me, Naoto is my favorite. I just really love Naoto, man. I love Naoto. Everything about Naoto is amazing. From a party member to a character, bringing out moves like nuclear and stuff like that. That was just so strong. Now, I will say, Naoto is also not a necessary party member because, again, a lot of things that Naoto can do, the main character can also do, but I never found myself needing to put that on the main character and take that duty away from Naoto. So if I were going to say that, I guess you can say in a way Naoto ended up being more useful or used more frequently by the end game than Yosuke and Chie did. Chie was somebody that I definitely stopped using probably around maybe around the time after Kanji. A little bit after Kanji, around Risei's time is where I kind of stopped using Chie as much, but that's probably where I'd say. But Naoto, basically once I got Naoto, I kind of didn't take Naoto out the party. Now the next one is going to be kind of tough too, even though it's only one person. It's tough. I don't know where to put Teddy. Teddy is really good with heals, physical attacks, everything. So if I'm honest, I might put Teddy in A tier too, because again, my in party, actually that's my whole in party right here. I had Narukami, Risei obviously was always there, but I had Yukiko, I had Naoto, and I had Teddy. That was basically my in party, and they all excel at different things. But again, I felt like I had a heavy hitter, a second heavy hitter, aside from Narukami, with Teddy, and I had somebody else who can heal with Teddy, alongside Narukami as well, and then we had Almighty, thanks to Naoto, and obviously I have another healer with Yukiko because she heals too, but it felt like it didn't matter whose turn it was, I could heal. And as you guys heard from the Persona 3 list, I love my healers. So anybody who's able to heal me, it's really nice. And even though Yukiko doesn't excel at physical attacks, her fire magic was destructive. So obviously, I think they all deserve A tier characters. To be A tier characters, and having 4 A tier characters from Persona 4 is looking mighty nice if I do say so myself. So with that oh, actually I think I forgot a Persona 3 character. I literally didn't even see her there. I'm going to put her up there in S tier too, because she's the main character. She does the exact same thing. So obviously, no disrespect. I know some people were probably commenting that and they didn't make it this far in the video, but I do obviously think she's an S tier character as well. Great character. I love her route, and she easily makes Persona 3 Portable worth playing. So that was the whole reason I played through Persona 3 Portable. So next up, we're going to do Persona 5, and I'm going to be taking stuff from Royal specifically because some of the abilities and stuff are a little bit different. Obviously Kasumi is here as well, so I'm going to just go based off that. But in general, let's go here. Let's start with Persona 5. We're on the final one here now. So I think this one's might be a little divisive as well. So first things first, I'm going to put Futaba up here in A. Primarily because, again, she's a navigator character and she is really good. I'd say just as good as Risei with the random buffs and heals and things like that. She just overall felt great to use. So even though you don't really use her, she plays that navigator role that doesn't get specifically used, but I felt like our connection in battle, it was always just like, Futaba, please, I need some kind of buff or something right now. And she'd give a heat riser for the whole team, or, get our SP back for the whole team. It's just like, yo, Futaba, you came in with a clutch. Thank you. So that's going to be something as well. I'm going to give her an A tier for. Here is something I'm not too sure about. I think I'm going to put Ryuji in B tier. Ryuji was someone I used a lot early in the game, but again, I felt like once I started really getting some Zio based personas, I stopped using Ryuji because Joker hits pretty hard. So it's like I never had to really worry about not hitting hard. And even if I didn't have to worry about hitting hard, there were other party members who came too later on after Ryuji that also hit just as hard, if not harder than him. I know stat wise, I think Ryuji does have the highest, physical attack stat, but in general, I think it wasn't enough to where I put him in specifically, because I felt like there was a lot of like wind based enemies in Persona 5. There was a lot of times where I felt like Ryuji was getting critically hit. So that kind of sucked. But next up, I'm actually going to put the next one that I was kind of referring to here. I'm going to go ahead and put this is gonna suck. I want to rethink this one for a second. I think I'm actually gonna put Ryuji in C tier because Again, he excels at what he does, but again, he's really outclassed by not even just the main character. Like, if you're mainly just outclassed by the main character, that makes you a B tier for me. And A tier is kind of in a league of their own, as well as S. But S is just uncomparable in my opinion. But if you're the real competition is A through C tier for me. So if you're only really outclassed by the main character, then you're probably B tier. But if you're in a league of your own, you're probably A tier. So that's how my thoughts on that. So I guess in a normal list, the C tier would be the B tier. But Ryuji, I feel like he's also outclassed by a couple party members. And I know even though they have different elements in general, in terms of, I guess, the element, if it's not one thing, it's the other. Like, say my main character can cover Ryuji's electricity, element. But if I have a party member who I feel more often than not lands his shots and it hits, even if it's not as hard, but pretty freaking hard, I feel like that's enough to put them in over Ryuji because I can cover the electricity. So, that's just me personally. And with that, I'm going to put Yusuke over here in B tier. He hits really hard. He's really fast. And I feel like I need the ice affinity more often than not. Having ice affinity on Joker kind of annoyed me more frequently because I felt like there was enough things to really get me critically hit on Joker, and obviously if you lose the main character, you lose the battle. So more often than not, I benefited from having Yusuke in the party over having Ryuji. So that's just me personally. This one is going to be tough too. Just so you guys know what I'm talking about, I'm mainly comparing On and Makoto right now. On and Makoto are really good party members. I feel like they kind of specialize in different things. Though she hits really hard. Like for her fire, oh my gosh, she hits hard. But I feel like Makoto also hits hard, but physically. But I also feel like in terms of physical attacks, I was always covered with, Yusuke and, Joker. But her healing, I think, might have been better than On's because On had healing too. But, she would get stuff like Medea Rahan, which is better than practically anything On gets. So as a healer, I think she has more worth than On does, despite me thinking more often than not, I'm gonna need fire affinity than nuclear. So I think I'm going to, that's a really tough one. I'm gonna come back to that. Morgana, as much as I don't care for the character, Morgana was a party member I practically never took out. I think in my Royal playthrough, I took out Morgana more frequently, but my Royal playthrough was my third time playing through Persona 5 specifically. So, but I still remember all those other playthroughs. Morgana, I'm gonna say, is an A tier because the heals and wind affinity and physical attacks, mainly because Morgana wasn't the best physical attacker, but he had that chance of critically hitting somebody to knock them down. That was nice. And of course, with the baton pass mechanic and stuff like that, Morgana felt like somebody that I could really benefit from having in there. So Morgana is somebody I definitely kept in there. Akechi, this is somebody that you use temporarily throughout the main game and get to use them more in Royal. I'm going to say, I think Akechi is a great character. I'd go as far to say they're B tier. There's a reason to use, Akechi over somebody like Ryuji, despite having different elements. But I think I have more advantages having Akechi over Ryuji, say, for example. So I don't think it's right to call Akechi a C tier character when B tier more accurately suits that, in my opinion. As much as I hate to say this, Haru is like my favorite. Like, I'd probably say she's my favorite Phantom Thief. Next to Futaba, I'd say she's like my favorite Phantom Thief, and she's one of my favorite characters in the game in general. But I'd probably say as a party member, she's a C tier, mainly just because any psychokinesis, she had, Joker just used. So, and it's sad because she hits really hard too, and I feel like there's some stuff that there's reason to put her in the party too, but more often than not, those, opportunities were further and farther in between, but that's just me personally. I think, Kasumi, I'm going to say, this one's kind of hard. But this last part is hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty hard. Like they could all be A, they could all be B. None of them are C. I don't think any of these guys are C. But I think let's go from the top. Makoto, I'm going to put her. I'm gonna put Makoto in A. I'm gonna put Makoto in A. Again, I can't. No, but the thing. Okay, you know what? I have to rethink that. Like I like having multiple healers, but the fact that Futaba would frequently do that, and like Morgana, never died for me really. Morgana did die more frequently now that I think about it, but I felt like it was never really a problem. Morgana would die in situations to where I didn't have to worry about anybody else dying, so I felt like Morgana was who I mainly relied on for healing too. So I don't know. Makoto would get affected by the status effects a ton, and it was annoying. I think I'm going to put Makoto in B. Makoto is a solid party member to have. Solid. Like, and arguably, she's better than a lot of these other people on the, in B tier. So, like, I'd probably call her a better party member than Yosuke and, Chie as well, just for comparison's sake. I feel like, this sucks too. But I think I'm going to put her in B as well, mainly because her fire is nice, but her limited healing, is cool, especially if you need that secondary healer. Like if I was running Joker, Morgana, and then Yusuke, that was a solid team right there. I got, both my physical attacks. I have my ice. I have practically everything on Joker. I have my big heals with Morgana. I'd have my awesome fire with Aunt, and I can have some individual heals for her. That was a solid team. That's a solid team. But I think Kasumi is probably going to be the same way. I wish we got more time to actually control her, but I feel like, again, anything that she could really do, Joker could also do, depending on your setup. I don't necessarily think she's worse than anybody on this list, but I do think that, again, she's mainly only really outclassed by the main character. So it's a similar situation as Mitsuru and Akihiko for me. And with that is my Persona 3 through 5 party tier list. So again, just to go over everybody, we have Narukami and the other protagonist, Makoto. We have the female MC, which I still honestly don't remember her canon name. I don't know if Q2 gave her that canon name, but Joker's next after that. Then we have Aigis, we have Yukari, Fuka, then we have Yukiko, Rise, Naoto, Teddy, Futaba, and Morgana, all in A tier. Then we have Mitsuru, Akihiko, Junpei, Koromaru. I had a legit brain fart right there. I don't know why that happened. I love Koromaru, but then we have Kanji, then we have Yosuke, and we have Chie, then we have, dude, I just realized B tier is super freaking big. But we have Yusuke, Akechi, Makoto, An, and Kasumi, all in B tier. That's obviously the biggest tier. I think B tier is a really solid tier because that means these people can all be interchanged and stuff when they're needed. Then we have Ken, we have Shinjiro, we have Ryuji, and we have Haru. Nobody's in D tier. I don't think D tier was necessarily needed. I don't think there's any bad party members in the Persona series, but I felt like everybody had their worth, but some people were better at that job than others, so more frequently I would use them. So by the time I had Naoto, again, I didn't really switch back out to Yosuke, Kanji, or Chie. Specifically, if I needed somebody with ice, I would go with Chie, but even then, more often than not, I would just use Narukami. But if they were really weak, like say if it was a boss weak to ice, I would think about putting Chie in too, just because we'd have 2 turns of ice usage, instead of just having 1 turn with Narukami. Especially because if with Narukami using ice, that would lock me into one specific weakness, because I basically have to stay on that whole persona for that fight. And it was dangerous, or I'd have to sacrifice a turn of attacking just so I can, make sure I heal or something like that. Because if my ice persona didn't have any heals, I'd have to get off my ice persona and heal for that turn and basically not attack the boss with, a critical element during that turn. So more often than not, if a situation like that came up, I would switch one of my regulars out for somebody who specialized in, what I needed. But that's my tier list. Let me know in the comments what you guys is. You guys could write it all out, but I'll be linking this specific tier list in the description. That way you guys can make your own and tweet me the picture on or something like that at KingdomAce_. You can find it in the description, or you can go on Discord and send it in there as well. That would also work. But that's going to be it for me. This video is long enough as it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is KingdomAce, and remember my words of courage to stay strong, stay beautiful, and always look skyward. Goodbye.